Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a wonderful day. We're coming to you live here, a different time. I think this could be our new normal time. I don't know if it works out good for you, Josh. I know Josh moved over to the West Coast on me, changed up my time zone stuff. So 1 o'clock Eastern time. Well, I don't even know what time it is over there. What is it?
Right now, I'm on the same as Pacific. In the fall, I'll be the same as Mountain Time. So Arizona's a little
confusing.
Yeah, it's very simple for everyone to follow. So I think last week's podcast was at 6:30 and everybody in the house was still sleeping when I was doing the podcast. So I was trying to be like quiet. Not the most ideal situation.
Yeah, so we're probably going to change to this time just to help out Josh's household, if nothing else. We have a lot of West Coast guests who come on the show, and we've even had people from Hawaii, and they're like, "It's 6 o'clock in the morning here," and they're like, "Oh wow, it's in the afternoon here." So, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about questions. We are the guest of the show today. We haven't done that in a very long time, and I know this because when I'm editing shows, it's like, wow, another guest, another amazing guest. And 2018, it was a lot of me talking about how I do business. And so not really a whole lot of that anymore. And I know a lot of our listeners and audience have really valued that over the years because I've always shared things that did and didn't work for me. I'm an open book to a fault almost. And today we're going to do a lot of Q&A. We're also going to make an announcement about a new platform accountability group that we have created for our listening audience. So super excited about that. We may say the word mastermind from time to time. It's not a mastermind group. It's an accountability group. Mastermind's just, it rolls off the tongue. Josh said that earlier. It rolls off the tongue a lot easier. And it is not a mastermind group. It is an accountability group where we hold you accountable. You do, like, you bring your stuff to the table and we just hold you accountable. We'll go into more details about it in a little bit. But Josh, you got anything else before we start talking about these amazing partners that we have?
No, it's been a crazy summer in just the entire US. We got a lot going on right now. Gas prices have caused a lot of questions and issues, being able to get equipment. Then it's been super hot, like everywhere, even where it doesn't normally get hot. Like I'm looking at you, Oregon and Washington State, like normal. It's actually getting hot even there. So it's a lot of people have had a lot of problems. And the reason Tersh and I have been, and the accountability group thing has been months in the making. We've talked about this for a while. The reason we've decided on doing something like this is so that we can help you accomplish your goals. Because honestly, even myself, I realize that for my digital marketing business, I need people holding me accountable. Because if I don't, I'll find some reason not to get something done. Oh, I had a fire. Oh, this came up.
It's so true.
We all do it.
Yeah. I was talking to, I'm not going to say his name. It's a buddy of mine and he's a business owner, and he made an amazing point. He was like, okay, so I've got all these processes and procedures down pat. My business is not running on its own, but it's chugging along, and I don't necessarily have to put out fires every day. So how do I not just skip work all the time? And how do I make sure that I'm there and present all the time? And this accountability group is that we set targets, you set targets, we hold you accountable to those targets. But yeah, it's something that it's very easy for us to get bogged down in just the normal mundane stuff.
Or when you're on the train tracks, you have a goal, right? You have a place that you're trying to end up. And what happens? We all know that there's a lot of detours on the way. Things happen. People leave. Can't get equipment. Whatever the case is, something happens. Something happens with your family that takes you away. The whole purpose of doing this is to make sure that you have something that's written down as your goal, and we keep you on track, or we get you back on track. And because of the podcast and the success that Tersh has had in the past and that we've had over the last year or so, we have a lot of really great business minds that are willing to help out small business owners because that's their passion, is helping out the small business owner, the guy or gal that is struggling with things that they've seen and done several times, or they've helped dozens of other businesses overcome those things. So we have a really great community that's been formed with this. And we've gotten some commitments from people that they are absolutely willing to come in and help with certain things, whether that's bringing in on some of these accountability meetings, certain types of training, and getting your team involved, things that maybe fill gaps. We're absolutely not trying to replace any coaching organization. It's to fill gaps that maybe they can't fit because they're large organizations. And this is help take their teachings to the next level and actually get the stuff done that is being coached to you versus, yeah, that's a great theory. I'll let it sit there for another few weeks before I do anything, and then you never do anything.
So with that being said, some of the people who have so graciously offered their time and effort are people who we are partnered with. First one being Billy and the team over at Sarah. Josh, you want to talk about them?
Yeah, Billy continues to amaze me because it's funny because he'll send some referrals and stuff our way, and I talk to these people, and Billy gets to know so much about these companies, even though they have 400 or 500 members now with Sarah, and he knows all about their business. And he's just a guy, he's a guy that has been there, done that. He's written the book. He's made the movie. He's done all of it. He doesn't have to be that way. There's nothing in it for him. But the level he gets to with these people's businesses continues to amaze me because it's all free. It's not free advice. You're in the Sarah community and he helps you, but it is advice that you're not paying additional for. And he could charge a lot of money for that those consulting fees and stuff. He's going to be one. He's very excited about the possibility of doing that and working with a small group of people who really want to grow their business versus people who think they want to grow their business. And that's the whole purpose. And that's really what we're focused on. We don't want anyone to be a part of an accountability group that this is maybe I'll show up to the meeting. It's going to be, if you're not here every single week, and we'll kick you out. It's not a money grab for us. Tersh and I have successful businesses. We're not doing this to future buy the Lambo or whatever the case is. We're doing it because we like to help, but we also want people to have some sort of investments to actually show up.
Yeah. You got to put a little skin in the game. Real quick, let's do our intro so that we don't do the whole podcast and then never actually do an intro video. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to Company Cam, who is also an amazing partner and supporter of the podcast. Company Cam, great. We talk about them. Obviously, we talk about them every week, but it's a great program that really helps out the SEO value of your website. If nothing else, if that's the only thing you do is just put video or put photos up on your website through the carousel, that alone really pays for the Company Cam. If you use our promo code we'll put in the chat, you get 14 days for free and 50% off the first month, 2 months, something like that. But yeah, we'll put that code in there. But yeah, Company Cam, great program. And it's also really powerful for whenever you're doing a sales call. And I found that out firsthand, being able to put those photos and videos right there. Our comfort specialist puts it into Company Cam. All that information is there. It's clear because he has an Android phone and I have an iPhone. And before, we would send stuff to each other and it would be compressed, but it's not even an issue anymore. But yeah, super, super excited about them. And yeah, let's get started with the show.
Are you looking for valuable business advice to reach that 7-figure revenue mark? Do you want actionable tips to properly navigate through every business challenge you encounter along the way? Let Tersh Blisset and Josh Crouch be your guide in getting you to the top here at Service Business Mastery. Tune in as they sit down with world-renowned authors in business, leadership, and personal growth who share valuable insights about management, marketing, pricing, human resources, and so much more. Let their nuggets of wisdom gold guide you in owning a thriving, profitable, and ever-growing business. Here are your hosts, Tersh and Josh.
So
Well, that was
really
better
quick,
late than never.
like halfway through the show now. But really quick, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please click on our YouTube channel and subscribe to that. Josh, if you will put that up, put a link to our YouTube channel in the chat bar. We have over 2,000 members in our group. We need to get some more subscribers on our YouTube channel. We have never really pushed that very much, but we go live each week on YouTube as well and LinkedIn. So if you happen to be on LinkedIn, I believe, is one of the most underutilized platforms by small businesses. I don't know, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, for years, I had a LinkedIn account, but it was just to have a LinkedIn account because I was told I had to have one. And then like I was accepting friend requests from everybody or connections, whatever. And now I see the value in it. And I have all these amazing connections that part of it's from the podcast. And I will tell you, hands down, Bill Spohn, he's one of the owners of True Tech Tools. By the way, if you need tools in the HVAC industry, go to truetechtools.com, TRUTECH tools.com. Use Service Biz as a promo code and you get 8% off for anything you purchase on there. Most everything. There's some manufacturers that won't let you do that. But anyways, he's one of the owners of that company. And he's one who really pushed me hard to get really connected with people on LinkedIn. And the first year of the podcast, most of my guests came from LinkedIn. And it's amazing how many people we've connected with on LinkedIn that are just outside of our industry, but just amazing. They're full of interesting information. So yeah, LinkedIn, we go live on LinkedIn, but long story short, that's why I was talking about that. Anyways, whatever.
It is. Now, I get it. A lot of your technicians aren't going to hang out on LinkedIn, but you can,
Sure.
A lot of the very high level business owners use LinkedIn very effectively. And that's including in the trades. I see a lot of operations managers, general managers from different HVAC companies, other business owners. A really great place to find them without maybe the noise of Facebook. Facebook gets really noisy. Like I already did it this morning. I opened Facebook. I was going to go instant message somebody. And the first post got me. And I'm like, shit, what was I here for?
Yep.
And then I closed it out. And then I went back in. And then I figured out what I was trying to do initially. LinkedIn does not have that level of noise where like you can really focus on, I want to connect with other people doing this. And you can easily search for them and find them and stuff like that.
You mentioned the operations managers and controllers and whatnot. I've had conversations with controllers from all over the country on LinkedIn where they've asked me, hey, if I moved to Savannah, would I have a position? I'm like, our company is not that large. Maybe next year that could be an opportunity for you. But it's crazy how much of an opportunity opens up because of having conversations on LinkedIn and just being genuine on LinkedIn. It's the business Facebook, but I don't know. I struggled with it for a long time. I struggled with LinkedIn. I'm like, this is a waste of my time. The email notifications that they used to send me, they just irritate the snot out of me. And then the spammy text messages or messengers stuff in LinkedIn, that always drove me nuts. I don't know. But now I figured out if they don't have an email address attached to their account, then don't accept them because it's just a spam bot. So that did away with that. But little tip there. I actually listened to a podcast and we had that same guest on the show and talked about building out a professional LinkedIn profile. And it makes a big difference when you have a professional looking LinkedIn profile versus just a profile that has a gray head on it. We've gotten jobs from LinkedIn as well. It's the most underutilized platform, I believe.
Just make sure if you're a client of Relentless Digital and another marketing company approaches you on LinkedIn, to ignore them.
Ignore all of them.
That's a pro tip right there.
Pro tip. Man, you know how many emails that I get every week? They're like, hey, I don't even remember what they call it now. I scanned your website and I found all these issues can I send you a free video of the issues that I found? Man, constantly, all day, give it to them. They hustle. I love the hustle. Sometimes I wish I hustled that much, but at the same time, I'm busy. Don't suck up my time. My time's valuable. So Josh, in case you can't tell, has a huge lag on his audio. I can see you blinking and you're like nodding to stuff I said 5 minutes ago. I'm going to start saying like things you shouldn't agree with. And while you're nodding, just see if I can get you to agree to something wrong. Oh, yeah. That's even better. Josh just told me he's only hearing every other word. So that's even more amazing. Okay, so Josh is going to figure out his technical difficulties. I'm going to talk about our group. You back with me, Josh?
I am. So I think it's because Brittany's on a Zoom in the other room. I think it's taken the bandwidth away. I just texted her. I said, "Can you jump off?" See if that helps. We're still trying to figure out and get into our new house here. So I haven't quite figured everything out, but we are working on it.
You have that Arizona internet. Oh man. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to talk a little bit about the accountability group that we have going on. Part of that accountability group, it has courses built into the group, or we built courses into these groups. And part of that is building out your podcast. And as weird as that might sound, we are building out a course to show you how to build a micro podcast. So become a micro influencer. And I don't know if that's a real term or not. That's a term that I came up with. But for me,
let's roll with it.
Yeah, for me, it is an influencer inside your city or wherever your service area is located. Part of that is like everybody's done blog posts forever. Podcasts feel like they might be super saturated, but in reality, it's not even close to being saturated at all. So much so that there's 3.5 million podcasts out there, and there's something like 50 million blog posts out there. So we're not even remotely close to hitting how many podcasts there should be out. So I believe wholeheartedly that podcasts are going to take over blog posts in the very near future because of the SEO value of having a podcast. So what we've done is built a small podcast for our local service area. And we're building out a course to show you exactly how to do that. Part of that is you'll get one of these here boxes here. This is a really cool company called Streamline Podcast, and they help do producing. So if you don't want to produce your own show, you don't have to produce it. You can just send it to them, because that's the challenge. Like, I've had a couple of business owners ask me about starting a podcast and how to start a podcast. And the overwhelming issues that come up are, what equipment do I buy? The equipment is really a very expensive or daunting. Like, that was me. I didn't know when I first started, I wanted to stream. I didn't know streaming wasn't really a thing back then. I overpaid for some things. So what we got is this box that Streamline Podcast actually created, and they made this up for us. And so it comes with everything that you need to start the podcast, which is amazing. It literally, and we tested these out too. We tested the microphones out. These microphones, they pick up amazingly well. It is a USB microphone, so you don't have to have any special equipment. And the wiring, the instructions are all there. The course is being built out, so it'll show you step by step how to start your podcast. And then once you do your podcast, what do you do with it then? That's where Josh comes in. Josh is the marketing guy. Josh is going to be the one that's going to talk to us about the blog post, taking that transcription and creating. So you take that 2,000 words, 3,000 words that you had in that podcast episode, transcribe it, that goes in a blog post, and then you have your actual show notes in the blog post. You end up with very long form content. Whenever Google just did an update on a couple months ago, our rankings shot up because the only content we had was extremely long form content because it was transcribed podcast episodes. And these are 30-minute, 40-minute, sometimes an hour long podcast episodes. So you don't have to sit here for hours and hours figuring out what to type on a blog post or what content to create. You create the video out in the field, transcribe that video, or make a podcast episode out of that video. And all you're doing is answering the questions that people have. And so you're answering clients' questions. You're doing your frequently asked questions, which is what, when people ask Josh, hey, what do I make my blog post about? What do people ask you questions about? And so you're answering those questions. You're creating long form content. It really is a win-win. Plus you're on tons of different platforms. So you get all these backlinks to your website. It really is a massive win for the company. At one point, this is back before Josh, I had the podcast running through my website for the air conditioning company, Service Emperor's website. And we got amazing growth. The problem was that it wasn't relative content. So people would come and they would search that, but then they were like, yeah, but I don't care about Service Emperor. I just care about the content that you have here on the podcast. So becoming the expert in your area and become that micro influencer, they're there because of what you're doing with the community, but then you are constantly being recognized. You're shouting out your local business. I hope that makes sense a little bit, but yeah. So that's part of that course. The accountability group that we have is showing you how to do that and getting one of these fancy little boxes. And what you want?
Tersh, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so what you were talking about, and there's so much good value that comes with that, especially if you start talking, and this is not even the SEO stuff, meeting with other business owners in your community, like Tersh has done with his Savannah podcast, the networking that allows you to other ways to attribute to your business and just give back to the local community, the charities. There is SEO value there with backlinks, okay? But I'm going to bore you with that. It's the fact of you're building a real presence in your community that people will actually feel and know about. Instead of just being another company, people will do business with you just because they like you. And it doesn't become about your price, or it doesn't become about some of these other things that we stress about every single day. It becomes about, man, I really the owner of that business. I want to do business with those guys.
It puts a face to the business. It humanizes our companies because it's so easy for us to get on the internet and have stock images, even though Josh slaps my wrist about stock images. Like you become the businesses, and then we're just comparing different logos. Once you become you humanize the business, and it's, oh, I want to do business with that company. Or you may, and we know of people who do this. And so we're not saying this is good or bad. We just are using this as an example. I'm using this as an example. I'm just throwing Josh in here. You may voice opinions that might deter people from you. You might, for me, you have to have an opinion about certain things. But if you're very polarizing in certain things and you get on a podcast, it could go really bad for you as well. So it's a fine line that you have to obviously walk there. But as long as you do a good job and consistency, that's the biggest thing. Consistency with it, and you humanize your business.
Well, and there's a lot of steps. Like Tersh and I one day have a meeting. We a couple months ago finally hired a producer to help us because with all the social channels, what to focus on, how to optimize your videos for those channels, how to optimize your blog posts, all these things. These are all things that we have been there and done. And if you look at it and you start thinking about that stuff, like I've been wanting to do a podcast and I'm worried about this and this. I'm not good at video editing. I'm not good at editing audio. These are all things that either Tersh or myself can have done personally. Now we have sent to a team that does it, but we can help you with that. And honestly,
and we have VAs that we can recommend to you as well. What were you going to say, Josh?
And we're pretty good with automation too. So there are certain things there. There's certain things there that I know a lot of people are very interested in. Those that use Service Titan, it's called Pro, and I think Sarah's Zapier integrations coming live soon. We have pretty big groups on Facebook that people are very interested in that stuff. But we look at it in just a little bubble or like a vacuum. We don't look at like the broader scope of all the things that we can do with automation to make your life better, easier, and to also amplify your voice with all of the different platforms that are out there. And I think that's part of our value proposition. There are things like that that we are really good at.
We nerd
can
out
help
on
that
it.
Maybe like a coaching organization that they don't. That's not something they focus on high level stuff, whereas we can kind of get into the nitty gritty of some of these other things that can really help grow your business and give you value.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. One of the things I really would like to talk about, I was on a coaching call yesterday, actually, with the coaching organization that I'm a part of. And we automate so much, and Josh will tell you about this too. We're at the point to where we automate so much that people say, "What do you automate?" And I don't even know what I automate at this point because I automate so much. And this is exactly something that happened in a conversation that we had yesterday where we were talking about CSRs, and Josh just was talking to Zach. Congratulations to Zach for announcing the CEO.
No, he should have done it on the episode. That would have been awesome to know about that.
But so he was talking with Zach with Power Selling Pros, and we were talking about CSRs and their booking rate, booking percentages. And I completely forgot about the fact that 3 times a day, I have an automated accountability message that goes out to teams from Zapier. And it asks, okay, how many phone calls have you received today? How many chat messages have you received today? How many have you booked today? How far are we booked out? Do we have any spots open today? Do we have any spots open for the rest of the week? And if we're booked, how far out are we booked? And that's just something that starts the conversation, holds people accountable throughout the day. And it just goes out automatically. And I forget about it. Other than having the conversations, I just forget that that's just another thing that we automate.
You've done that with your field team too. You have you have some different things that I don't have. I don't have a field team. You check in with your team regularly on how they're doing. And you've automated that process where the only time you really have to get involved is when you get feedback that is concerning or something that you need to take care of. So you have something that keeps the team aligned, but you don't necessarily have to manually send a text out every morning or manually send a group message and try to remember who the hell's on the group message, right? It goes out, feedback comes in, and when something needs your attention, you get alerted. And I think it's a really cool way to leverage some of the technology that's out there to keep your team feeling closer, but also get what you need done.
Yeah. And it's also, it's consistent. It's very consistent. So the team knows that it's coming every single day and they're prepared for it. They know they're going to be held accountable and they're going to be asked these questions. And if they don't respond, it's just as bad as if so one of the things that Josh mentioned was my field team, we have a momentum gauge and it checks red, green, or yellow. So if you're red, I'm stopped, I'm done, I'm completely finished for the day. If you're yellow, hey, look, I'm hitting a roadblock. Maybe I'm hot. Maybe traffic's bad. Maybe it's raining and I'm getting irritated. And then green is I'm good. There's nothing stopping me. That goes out to my team 3 times a day. And I expect everybody to respond at least once a day. I know that you're doing a change out. You can't be messing with your cell phone all day long. But if I send that message out and you haven't responded all day long, I'm going to reach out. If you missed it twice in a row, because it goes out 3 times a day, I'm going to probably message you after the second time just to check on you. Safety, if nothing else. I want to make sure you're alive and there's nothing bad going on. But it's not uncommon because we send that out first thing in the morning. I want to know how you're coming in mentally for the day. So at 8 a.m. it goes out at 8:02 actually. And I get reds sometimes. I get yellows sometimes. I had a guy that was literally pulled over on the side of the road by a police officer and he sent a red. And my team knows if you send a red, I'm going to call you instantly, no matter what I'm doing. If I got a red right this moment on our podcast, I would step out and I would make that phone call. Yellow, I'm going to send you a text message. I'm not going to send it in a group chat. I'm just going to send you a text message, check on you, see what's going on. green, I'm not even going to bother you. And it's going to be a good job. Way to go. Let's go. I've had people come in the morning, yellow and red. My grandpa passed away. And now this has been 2 winters or 2 Decembers ago. And the momentum gauge came in. The momentum gauge didn't even come in yet. Like as soon as I got the message, I just sent it to my group chat, to the whole Teams. We use Microsoft Teams for our internal messaging. And I sent it to Teams and I said, hey, I just want to let y'all know I'm red. And then I explained grandfather passing away and everything. Instantly, the whole team's reaching out to me. And it's the exact same, like it reciprocated from every time where I've reached out to them. As soon as I sent that message, they reached out to me. So it's a culture builder at the same time. And the yellow, you get a yellow, and I'm with a technician who put the yellow in. And then all of a sudden his phone starts dinging. Are you okay? Like text messages, phone calls. Hey man, just checking on you. Like boom. That's not something that you can, that's something that we all want. That's the culture that we all want, is for everybody to check in on everybody. We all say we're a family and everything like that. And it's easy to say those buzzwords and everything, but whenever people truly feel
to actually have the systems that back them up is what really matters.
And it's, the thing about it is, if I had to remember to send that out 3 times a day, if I had to manually type the whole message out every single day,
you wouldn't do it for more than a couple of days.
Maybe a couple of days. I might finish it the first day. I definitely wouldn't do it every single day. And this has been going on for 2.5 years now, 3 years. So there's nothing that I can't, other than probably wearing this outfit or an outfit similar to this one and brushing my teeth. I don't know that I've done anything consistently for 2.5 years, 3 years. So that's the thing about the automation.
I will tell you, you staying consistent with the podcast, coupled with some marketing tweaks to continue to get the word out. And I know you've been top 100 in the past, but it's gotten a lot more competitive since you started. We've been bouncing around and on the business management side. And I get a Monday update from a site called Chartable, which looks at all our podcast rankings and stuff like that. And it goes on like downloads and all. There's a couple different ranking factors, but we're back in the top 100. And this is our way of recognizing that and thanking every single one of you that either have stuck with Tersh's ass for 5 years or you're stuck with me and him now for the last year. Right. We really appreciate it. And love the fact that I hear from people all the time now. You told me this was going to happen. Oh, I listen to your podcast. Yep. I'm like, what? I don't even know you.
It's funny.
It's such a great networking thing.
When you go to R or something like that, and people come up and tell you your story to you, and I'm like, man, I've never met you before. And there's that sense of just knowing each other because of hearing us every single week, which is amazing. And I told Josh that this was going to happen, and Josh was like, I don't know. I don't really understand how that's going to feel. And then we go to AHR and it's nonstop. Hey, Josh, how's this and that and the other thing? And I'm like, told you, Josh, told you. But it's cool. And the thing about it is that's a great thing that you mentioned there, Josh, because I want to rehash the website. If you have a question for us, don't wait till AHR to stop us, to ask us. Go to the website. There's a button right down there. Click it and record your message. Ask the questions. Servicebusinessmastery.com. Click the button at the bottom right of the screen. Voice memo. Ask us a question. It's going to come to Josh and I, and we're going to answer your question for you. And because it's a new gadget, I'm willing to bet that we'll answer it probably in the first 5 or 10 minutes of you asking the question.
That's how Tersh and I are with anything new. Oh, something came in, it's new and shiny. I'm going to stop whatever it is I'm doing, and I'm going to go figure out how I can answer you. But yeah, it was what we're talking about, building a podcast and stuff like that. Just because you can't envision it on like a national scale, like what Tersh and I are doing right now, that level of exposure you can do in your market. I promise you it will work if you're consistent with it and you take the plunge and you don't wait. Just like how long have you been talking about making video, Tersh? Like video for like tech tips, stuff like that. I feel like I've been talking about it for years now.
Yeah.
But you got to take the plunge. You have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone. Your podcast may suck for a while. That's okay.
Go back and listen to like episode 1, 2 to 5. Actually, episode 1, 2, and 3, Brian Orr was with me, guiding me. So it didn't sound terrible. Now, 4 through 10, it's horrible now. Like I go back and listen to it now. It's cringeworthy.
I feel like you and I should create TikToks of us reacting to your episodes back in the day,
Man.
cat in the background, and then do you know what I'm talking about, right? Like that trend where you're like listening to someone and then you're reacting on the other side. I feel like this would be a great little TikTok.
Man, I did such a disservice to those guests. They were some of the smartest people I have ever met. And I've developed relationships since then with those individuals. And I'm like, man, I hacked up that interview horribly. But the thing about it is, you have to start somewhere. Like you said, Josh, you have to start somewhere. I'll go to networking events. Julie and I we're going to Savannah Bananas baseball games this afternoon with the Georgia Police Canine Foundation. We're going to network, but I'll go to those events and people will recognize me and Julie because of the local podcast. They're like, "Oh, you're the lion. You're the one that has the lion on everything." Yep, that's us. We have the lion and it's the local podcast. And I've actually handed people my business card before, and they're like, "You're on my Facebook feed all the time with your local podcast," and it's just nonstop. And I'm like, I'll tell you, I don't even publish that much, but using different platforms, you can regurgitate that same stuff. And this particular person said I was there all the time, which was amazing to me because I wasn't putting hardly any effort into the local podcast at that time.
Yeah. And that's what happened. It's not going to happen overnight. You'd be surprised by how quickly it does happen. And that's where all of this comes about, where Tersh have just decided we want to hold accountability groups for those that really want it. If it's not you, that's okay. You can still listen to the show. We're still going to love you. But we do, it's our way back and help out as well. We'll have more information about that as we move forward. We tried to do a launch before summer, and it just wasn't the greatest idea with the heat and me moving and everything. So we will be launching that probably come September, October timeframe. If you are interested, please let us know. I know we have a list of 15 or 20 people that gave initial interest, but it's going to be very small groups. It's not going to be a big thing. All your stories, like your business stuff you share in that small group, is going to stay in that small group. So that way we can openly talk about things. Yeah.
And another thing is, I mentioned earlier my CSR and the KPIs and the automation that we built for our CSR. And we use Power Selling Pros. Having them train a couple times a month, every other week, is really cool for me. But I believe that CSRs and dispatchers and those key personnel individuals, they need to be held accountable as well. And so we're going to open up a segment for them as well. So if you have a CSR that you want to get into a CSR specific accountability group, I almost said mastermind. It's not, it's accountability, and you want to hold them accountable to targets for every single week, then that might be a ticket for you. Now, the way it will work is we'll have a meeting. Let's call it Friday. It's not just going to be on Fridays, but we're going to call it Friday. And then on Monday, we're going to send an email out asking, did you get X, Y, and how far along are you with X, Y, and Z? Now, there's also habit trackers built into our platform. So you can check in with your habit as you progress along and you're doing everything that you need to do and you've accomplished all your tasks and everything. It's going to stay connected to your profile. So you can look back over a year and see all the things. Because me as a business owner, like we grew 600% on certain things. And I'm like, man, this just isn't good enough for me. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm a pessimist.
It's good to reflect though.
It is, but
it's really good
to
to
look
reflect
back
and see where you came from.
Then it's, oh, dang, I am a lot better off than I was a year ago, 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And so that I really like that aspect of it, but there's a leverage also. And that's the key to this accountability is it's going to be a leverage of a buy-in leverage. And so and we don't set your targets, you set your own targets. So you don't meet your target for the week, you're going to have to pay money into this pool that's going to be sent to a nonprofit. And that number is to be determined. It needs to be painful enough to where you're going to be like, I don't want to spend my money. Let me knock out this thing, even if I have to work a little bit later today to get it accomplished. But it's not going to be so ridiculous that it's going to break anybody or anything like that. I'll tell you, one time I put up leverage that I would hire a comfort specialist within the end of that month, or else I would give the person that was holding me accountable one of my Mustangs. And if you know me, you know that like I'm a gearhead. Like I literally have a gear shifter tattooed to the palm of my hand. I have a full sleeve of car parts, and I had a very coveted Fox body Mustang that I had for years. And Julie, like we went on our dates in that car, and I put that up as leverage. If I didn't hire this person, then I was going to go do that. Now the reward was Julie and I would go to Universal Studios, just the two of us, which kind of was leverage for me because I do not like Universal Studios, but Julie does. So we hired them because I wasn't giving up that car. And it's amazing what good leverage will do for you and how much it'll motivate you. But that's part of what this group is going to be about as well.
Yeah, no, so there'll be more to come, and we will be sure to share those updates as we get them. Now that summer's starting to, sadly for HVAC companies, wind down a little bit. We still got August yet, but it starts slowing down. We're going to get back on track and developing some of these things, so that way we have a little more information we can share.
Let me read something really fast. The 26th, yesterday, John Torrey, he was a guest on the show a couple months ago.
Couple
weeks ago. Everything feels like all jacked up. I was out with COVID last week, so I did the interview and I was like trying my best not to cough the whole time. And I was like, all right, Josh, I'm gonna have to run to the urgent care. I went to urgent care. I had COVID, and Julie was stuck in Hawaii for an extra 10 days because she was there on military orders, and she got stuck there because she had COVID. She comes back to take care of me when I'm on COVID, and we're complete. But anyways, so everything feels like all distorted for me. But yeah, John sent an email. John Torrey with Searchlight sent an email out, and let me see. One of the things that he mentioned here was, oh, come on, Tersh. Oh, the third week of July showed slower demand for HVAC contractors across the entire U.S., which was crazy. I noticed that same trend, and I'm in a small accountability group, and we're texting each other constantly. And we were like, I'm past last year's July numbers, but I've slowed down. Like something weird happened and I slowed down. But when he brought this, maybe it's confirmation bias. Maybe I'm just saying it's okay that we're only growing 120% when we were targeted to grow 200%. But he said there that the third week in July showed slower demand for HVAC contractors across the U.S. And we're hearing more and more direct feedback about customers being tougher shoppers. So I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of tidbit. Now we're in his.
There's some, by the way,
chain,
there's some really good. I read the same thing last night, Tersh. Really great data in that blog post. That should be something we should probably add to the show notes. If you have it, I don't know if I have I have the email, but Searchlight Digital does they do some really great stuff with data and insights for you on the marketing side of things. And I strongly recommend anyone just take a look at their weekly. I think it's weekly. He does a post, some great information. They put some really great stuff about scheduling and online booking. And then they got a lot of different content that relates to chat versus form fill versus phone call, all these different methods that we try to get customers to engage with us and what that means for your business. I think there would be some shocking insights in that blog post that you're referencing that people would be interested to read more about.
Yeah, it's not theory, which was I love about this article. He's using legit numbers. Their numbers and their percentages, I don't know if he made them up, but they look like they're legit to me anyways. I don't know. But one thing I do want to mention though, Ryan Finn over at Chirp, we haven't talked about Chirp at all, I don't think, on the podcast anyways, but we've played with Chirp in the background for a hot minute now. And there's some the communication that we talked about, that you were talking about, form fills and dare I say the HA word, and selling leads to us, automation that they've built out that will automatically reply to messages and book them if you have
speed to lead, baby. Speed to lead.
Exactly. Because for me, like, I was always super upset with those platforms because I would get a lead, it would come to my cell phone, and I would message the person, they didn't respond. I'd wait 10 minutes and I'd call them, wait 10 more minutes, and then I'd send an email. By then they're already booked with another company. But having that automation to do it instantly, and then to do it instantly again, like, that's where it's at. That's what the big dogs are doing. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, automation.
Talking around about that.
That level of automation fills a gap, right? You can only have so many people doing so many things. When they're all answering the phone in the middle of summer, when a form fill comes in, it may take them a hot minute to get to that, or a chat comes in your website or something. Having that it's a backup. It's just at this stage in the game in 2022, it's a necessary evil. And sooner our industry just decides that, hey, we need to do this, we need to move in this direction. That's the type of stuff that companies that are investing in small businesses are looking for. They're looking for, hey, how can we get to a company that's productive and they make us profit, and can get back to our shareholders, or our private equity group, stuff like that. So think about those things now before it's too late, and all of your competitors, because I'm sure if you're not considering it, they are, and the business will pass you by, especially at the speed technology is evolving in our industry.
Oh, it's wild. It's absurd how fast it's going. But here's another thing. You mentioned there's so many, like your CSRs, and probably all hands on deck. If you have a ring tree of any sort where the calls are coming in and it's going to everybody's desk to get it answered. And sometimes we still don't get it answered. We have overflow services. You and I were talking about this yesterday. We have an overflow service that it goes to this person. And if everybody's on the other line, it goes to the overflow call center, which happens to be a guest of ours, a previous guest of ours on the show. And Laura Nelson, that's who handles our overflow calls. But we have an automation, and I thought this is the greatest thing in the world, that if it's considered an abandoned call, if it's a call that's over 12 seconds that nobody answers internally here, then it automatically sends them a message and says, here's a link to book online if you'd like to book online, and here's our availability, blah, blah, blah. And so it sends that text message, and so it's really cool. And that automation has saved several clients from dialing the next person down on Google. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's something that we're always looking as a marketing agency to, how do we help you make your operations better? And I'm testing that with one client right now, where because they had some problems with missed calls and calls going to voicemail and stuff like that, it's just not getting picked up. So we create a system where we have an automation where if a call doesn't get answered in this amount of time, it sends a text message to, hey, we're sorry we missed your call. If they have an online booking link, this is the quickest way to book an appointment with us. Or we send an internal message to maybe 2 or 3 team members. Please call this lead back ASAP. It's a missed opportunity type thing. You have a lot of redundant systems. That way nothing ever falls through the cracks. And that's where, if we keep circling back to automation, you can tell Tersh and I are nerds about this stuff, but it helps us grow our business and take care of the things that are really hard for humans to always take care of consistently. And I think that's why Tersh and I have had success with this, is because we realize that in order for us to grow our businesses, instead of adding more bodies that just do data entry type tasks, we figured out ways to increase that, get some of the stuff that humans don't really want to do anyways off their plate, so they can focus on giving a better customer experience on the phone, or a better customer experience in the home, or whatever the case is. And that's what automation and technology allow you to leverage.
Yeah. And that's something, like, I have team members that there were certain tasks that I felt was just taking a lot longer than what it should have. That this has to be done. Speed is everything. A sense of urgency is a core value. So like, why is it taking you so long to do X, Y, and Z task? It's because they truly just did not enjoy the task at all. And the fact that I could automate that particular task took it off their plate. Then their other task, they did a lot better because they didn't have to worry about this other task that they really despised doing that was part of this whole workflow. Now I just did away with that. Now they really excelled at the other part of the workflow. And the thing about it is, like when we talked to Ari Mizell about automation in general, sometimes you have to spend a little bit of time to build the automation, and then you reap the rewards in the end or after the fact. And that's the challenge that a lot of people have. For me, if I do the same task, if I perform the same task 3 times or more, I'm going to try and build some sort of automation. Payroll is the one that I can't figure out yet because it changes a little bit every week. But that's anything that I do. I feel 3 times is about my limit that I'm going to do something before I'm like, okay, let's figure out how to automate it or outsource it. And so, yeah, I spend time. I dive in rabbit holes, and we're guilty of it. But that's why we're here, though, too, because if you ask in our Facebook group, if you're not part of the Service Business Mastery Facebook group, join it. If you have a question in there, wow, we have some industry giants in that group who are so willing to take a few minutes and help you out. Obviously, they're not going to become your business coach for free on Facebook, but man, the resources that they've provided, the answers the insight that they've given, I'm like, oh, this is just amazing. This is really cool stuff. So yeah, it's really, if you have a question, don't hesitate. Don't feel like you are asking a question that's only you're the only person that's ever experienced this. It's not the case. There might be 3 other people who have that same question right now, and it could turn into this huge chat thread. It's happened before where you have 150 comments on a chat because someone was willing to ask a question. It's usually me. I'll ask a stupid question all day long. Like, I don't care. I might know the answer and I still will ask it just to see if I can get a different answer because I need some confirmation bias. I want a different answer. I want the answer that I agree with. But in reality, I'm just kidding. But at the same time, that's what the group's there for. We're not business coaches. We're just here to connect you with people who are experts.
Yeah. We've been through a lot ourselves too. Sometimes we can head that off before we have to get to someone who's maybe a higher level. Maybe they've had a $30-50 million business. We obviously haven't gotten to that level, but we definitely do enjoy helping and answering those questions and engaging with you. If you go through the threads, you'll most likely see comments from Tersh on just about every post.
Yeah.
So for lack of our sanity or sleep, we decide that's what we want to do. But check it out. I think there's a lot of really good stuff coming. I guess we'll wrap up by talking about a few things that we are planning on doing later this year. I know for sure we are confirmed we'll be at the Women in HVACR event, yep, which is the first week of November, and it is in my new backyard, Phoenix. So we will definitely be there. It's only 45 minutes away.
We're coming to crash Josh's pool.
Yeah, and our extra bedroom. I got it just for you, buddy. But so we have a few other events we're looking to get out to later this fall. We're not completely confirmed yet, but if any of you guys are traveling to any of those events, let us know. We'd to hang out, catch dinner, get to know you a little bit better. And hell, if you got a great story, get you on the podcast.
Oh man, yeah, we're gonna be recording. That's what we do. We record all the time, but yeah,
that's all we do. These events, we are literally nonstop record for 30 hours. It's insane how much content we get at these events.
It is so true. Yep. And I wish that I could consume all of the amazing content that the presenters are giving, but most of the time they're presenting and Josh and I and someone else are off in the corner somewhere having another conversation about something else, and which is really cool. It's awesome to be able to do that kind of thing, but we don't always get to hang out and absorb all the amazing content. Now, we did at the EGIA event. Oof. The Solenberger. Oh man, he's a powerful speaker. You were able to do a different one whenever I interviewed
Dane John.
Yeah,
he has a really cool story. He was a guy in Shark Tank, FUBU, He created the FUBU brand, which is
I
obviously
didn't know
still
that.
an amazing brand. Oh yeah, and his story of how he got started was super powerful. Just the hustle, like not taking no for an answer and continuing to push forward with his dreams and stuff. It was a great story. Obviously, Shark Tank. Most of you guys that are business owners probably know of or like Shark Tank because it's a very interesting show. But yeah, it's been great. We go to these events. EGIA's got like Steve Young this year. They got, I can't think of her name. She's the trainer that Jillian Michaels, I think. She does all those fitness shows on TV and stuff.
No, I don't know if I need to go to
speaker.
that. I ain't trying to be all in shape like that.
You're probably going to tell you something you don't want to hear. You're not going to like the answer.
I guarantee she will.
But
the Victor's event is coming up too, and it's if y'all don't know it, I'm sure.
He's got
rock.
So
but
it's ironic because I just mentioned Steve Young, but any football fan knows predating Steve Young was Joe Montana, and he has Joe Montana as a speaker. Which I don't know if I've seen him at any event. That's going to be very cool. He's got a lineup too. Like it's going to be nonstop, amazing speakers and content at that event. If you guys can make it out,
I got it here.
That one's in Vegas. Montana, it's in October.
Real quick, you got a delay on there, so I'm gonna cut you off. Joe Montana, Ed Milet, Ryan Stewman, Brad Lee, Victor Rancourt, Ishmael Valdez, Jason Walker, Joe Crisera, Uncle Joe, Daniel Auroras. I don't know him. Dan Antonelli. Oh, that's who I was interviewing whenever you were at the EGIA thing. Jeff Packard, Michelle Van Beck. Is it Beck or Beek?
I think it's Beek.
I think that's right.
We're going to go with Beek.
I ruin everybody's names, and I apologize for that 100,000%. Amanda Trillo.
That's the owner of Grasshopper in New York.
Judge Graham, Billy Stevens. Whoop, whoop. Shout out to Billy. TJ Hartnett and Tommy Mello, my buddy Tommy. That guy is friggin' brilliant. He's brilliant, dude. Just so you know.
I was listening. I was watching a video of the other day. Actually, I think it was on Thaddeus and Evan's podcast. They did a little like clip of it where he was talking about his recruiting and stuff. I'm just like, I'm listening to him. I'm like, God, that dude is freaking smart. He's just got it together.
Everything, which is amazing. We've had Al Levy on the show several times, and Al is one of Tommy's coaches and mentors. Amazing how much Tommy just implements everything that Al was saying, and he can regurgitate it. That's my thing. Like I love absorbing all the guests that we've had. We have hundreds. We've literally had hundreds and hundreds of very brilliant minded guests on the show. And I love absorbing all of it, but I can't regurgitate it all. And that's Tommy's thing. Like he just, boom, and got it. And I love talking. I love just, we were at Victor's event last year, and I just had the record button on, and I'm just having a conversation with Tommy. And it's just, I don't know what's going to happen out of this conversation, but there's going to be some gold here. So I'm just going to record it all, because it's just always just, oh, really? That's what your challenge is right now? This is how I deal with that situation. I'm like, dang, Tommy, how do you figure all this stuff out? I love Tommy, man. He is real, and he's always giving back to. Oh, there's Vic in the chat bar over there. I don't know if you see him or not. You look frozen to me, Josh. Yeah, Victor's. It's going to be good for sure. Somebody commented on the fact that Tommy and I go back. Little known fact: Tommy was on the Service Business Mastery podcast. I believe he was probably one of those first 10 guests that I really hacked up an interview. Dude, Vic, what are you doing in the ER? He said Victor's watching the show from the ER right now. The event's got him overly stressed. Man, I understand 100%, dude. That's putting on events is no fun. Julie and I were in charge of putting on an event, and it was for $4.5 million of no-cost healthcare in Savannah. Wow, stressful. It was not a fun time for me. Yeah, I'm not an event coordinator at all. But yeah, Tommy Mello, he was one of the guests, like the first 10 or 15 guests on the podcast. And that was when his book first came out. He mailed me like 3 cases of books for me to give away to everybody. But so, yeah, Yep, when Tommy was doing his first book thing. So then we had a guest here, Greg Townsley. Can you get a Service Marketing Pro guest to deep dive? Josh, Josh is gone. He probably lost internet. We actually had a guest come on the show from Service Titan to do it. I don't know. We can try something. I guess probably what's a deeper question you might have, Greg, and we can try and help out with that. I'm not an expert with that at all, but we can definitely connect you with those individuals so we had David and then Sarah was on the show and there was somebody else. Yeah. The problem with having so many guests on the show is I just can't remember everybody's name right off the top of my head. But yeah, we can try and figure something out there and connect you with the right people too. All right. So Josh had to bounce. His internet is really slow. He's getting that figured out. And so I'm going to call it a wrap. Does anybody have any questions in the chat bar? Vic, I hope you feel better, man. Get out of the ER. Julie and I was saying earlier, we both got sick. Julie's back sick again. I thought she might have had COVID again, but nope, tested negative. So she's not feeling the best right now, but yeah. All right, cool. So I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. It's not our normal episode. It was me and Josh. We were talking about our accountability group and podcast, becoming a micro influencer and how that's affected us, and a little bit of how we're going to help others that are in the accountability group start up their own micro podcast if they want to become a micro influencer, and also having those accountability group, the small segment for CSRs or dispatchers, and depending on what kind of feedback we get there, service managers, operations managers, that type of things. And we have a ton of guests who have been on the show who have reached out to us and said they would love to help, whether they're a guest in the accountability group once a month or something to that effect. We have some very high level individuals who are running very large organizations who are willing to be in the group, who also want to be held accountable and have voiced their opinion about that. And we'll have that group as well. To be a fly on the wall and those types of groups. I'm excited because I am that fly on the wall, because I don't know that I'll have anything to input in there, but I thank y'all for hanging out with us today. And if you have any questions, again, don't hesitate, shoot a message, go to servicebusinessmastery.com, click the little button at the bottom right of the screen and record a voice message. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get some feedback from you. If you haven't already, subscribe on the podcast catchers, whatever podcast catcher you use, and leave us a review, a 5-star review. Only the 5-star reviews. If it's not going to be a 5-star, don't leave a review. But just kidding. But really, we love to hear from you. That's the only way that we will continue to grow in the rankings. We are in the top 40, top 50 in certain aspects, but we really feel like it was a major accomplishment for us to be able to get back into the top 100 for the business marketing podcast, the business side of podcasts on the Apple podcast catcher in particular. And there's just a couple other ones that we were in the 40s week before last, and which was really cool. And we don't really expect that very often, or at all, really, for us to have a hobby that we're just giving back to the industry that's given us so much. But anyways, I'm rambling. I appreciate all y'all. Hope y'all have a wonderful and safe week. We look forward to hearing back from you. And please give us feedback on the accountability group. If you want to do it, if you want to learn more about it, hear more about it, just let us know. We can do an episode that's not our normal podcast episode, just talking more in detail about it, if that's something else y'all want. But anyways, hope you have a wonderful and safe week, and we'll talk again next week on Service Business Mastery Podcast. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.